All right. Well, good afternoon. I'm feeling a little bit happy and sad because we, the happy side, we get Dr. James, our very own Central Valley Charter School director. Sad that the career fair we're down to two speakers. That's it. So we've had a great time though. Um, so we're super excited, and we just want to thank him and appreciate him for being able to share his background with us. And I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. I'll let him kind of talk to that. But to our students, we just ask that you save questions for the end of the presentation, and you'll use that Q&A function. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and hand the baton off to you, Dr. James.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, everyone. The voice is going a little bit, so I apologize. I was stuck on the freeway for a long time coming into Fresno today from down south. Our Grapevine was closed. So, so we're here though, and we're ready to roll. And so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Stephen James. I'm your Senior Special Education Director here at Yosemite Valley and Monarch River Academy Charter Schools. But in my previous life, I was a police officer. And so I've been asked to speak to you about law enforcement, and we'll go from there. I have a little bit of a slideshow to talk about some things that might help you if that's a decision that you're making that possibly you would like to go into law enforcement of some sort, and then kind of a little bit of my background and things that I did as a police officer. And then, like I said, we'll open up to your questions and we'll answer as many as you got. So I'd say our team, here we go. So let me share my screen and hopefully it's still there. So again, welcome to Law Enforcement with Dr. Stephen James. Of course, back in those days, I was just Officer Stephen James. And so something that is very dear and near to most police officers and anyone that works in the fields of what they would refer to as police and fire, or those emergency type of positions. You're always looking at some things that you can look at as a person that really drives who you are and the type of organization that you work for. And with me, I work for the San Diego City Police Department. And one of the big things that we always looked at was integrity, right? Because you're nothing without your integrity. Okay, it's truly who you are. The honor piece is, for one, you're honoring the profession, you're honoring yourself, you're honoring your family, especially you're honoring your community that you're working for, and it goes those that you work with on a daily basis, and having courage to go out and police your neighborhood how it should be policed, right? Not with heavy hand, right? But the courage to go out and do what is needed to really make sure that the community that you police is yours, okay? And that you're really doing what they truly need, and nothing more and nothing less. So here are some of the requirements in most departments across the state of California. You have to have a minimum of a high school diploma. Most won't take GED. Some might these days, but for the most part, no. Most are requesting, or at least, I want to say requiring, but kind of wanting you to have at least an AA degree. Reason being, as all of the data throughout the years has indicated, the more education that a police officer has, the less propensity towards violence, okay? So you had a bachelor's degree, you're a lot less likely to have violent tendencies in your life and in anything that you do compared to a high school diploma. Why would you want a bachelor's degree to get into the police world? Is it helps you promote. In the state of California, we have police officer standards. And so in those police officer standards, there's a 1, a 2, and a 3. And each one of those is based on time of service, okay, and based off your education. So for you to get to that advanced post, that level 3, with a high school diploma, you would need probably 12 years and 30 units. okay, to get to that top level, right? You got your basic, intermediate, and advanced. A bachelor's degree is 2 years, okay, with your BA. So you could reach that advanced status in the state of California, which then will allow you to pretty much promote through the state. If you were to decide to move to another organization, that advanced post really helps. And in most cases too, doesn't hurt, is it most of them comes with a pay raise as well. So you get a little bit more money in your pocket if you have that intermediate and advanced post. So again, and post, when I keep talking about post, is an acronym for Police Officers Standards of Training. That's all it stands for. So the process, so what do you have to do to become law enforcement in the state of California, be it San Diego Police, city police of any kind, sheriffs, CHP? There's an application, okay? And as part of that application, they ask you all kinds of questions, from times you've been in trouble, any of those things, to also if there's been any drug use in your background, alcohol abuse, things of that nature. And then there's a background check. If you get through that application and you get through the background, then they'll have you go out and do normally some sort of physical fitness piece, where you might have to do some running or do certain things to show that you have the physical fitness to perform the job. Go through this extensive background check to where they're going to be in your neighborhood talking to your neighbors where you grew up to find out what type of person you were. I got calls from friends of mine I grew up with and let me know that their moms and dads had spoken to the background investigators on the San Diego Police Department and let them know what type of young man I was growing up in the community. Then there's an interview process where you go in and in most cases, it's with a lieutenant and a captain, possibly just one-on-one. They ask you some questions and really want to know, what's going on. But let me back up first, because the one thing I did leave off my process, and I'm blaming it on Jonathan because he didn't catch it. There is a test. You have to take a written test to get on the police departments. All right, they want to find out all kinds of good stuff about you. So yes, you're going to be taking the CASP test to get on the police department, because they have math and English, and then they have some scenario stuff that they want you to answer. So if you get through all of that, then they're going to send you out to do a polygraph. For those of you that don't know what a polygraph is, in street terms, they call it a lie detector, right? They hook you up to the machine, all these probes, and they start asking you what they refer to as closed-in questions. A closed-in question is something that you would answer yes or no with, right? And so they answer those questions, and then it goes through, they look at it, and then they give it all to the background people. If they like what they see and say, you know what, this is someone that we really would like to hire, then they send you out for a physical exam to see if you can, again, physically perform the duties. Once you're done with that, if you pass that piece, you'll be notified about when you might start the academy. For me, I started the academy on August 17th, 1982. So a few years ago. All right. So the academy. So each police agency has their own academy. Sometimes the agencies will go in together. So for instance, when I was at Miramar College in San Diego, where the San Diego Police Academy is located, I had San Diego Sheriffs in my academy. I had Carlsbad, Oceanside, Chula Vista, and Harbor Police, excuse me, were in my section in the academy. And then once you're done with all of that, and you go through all the book learning parts and stuff, then you go out into the field. Now, some of this has changed since I was in the field. When I was a field training officer, which I'd have young folks right out of the academy riding with me, they came out after 8 weeks, and then they rode with an officer for a couple of weeks. Then they went back in the academy for 4 more weeks, came back out onto the street for 4 weeks, back in the academy for 4 weeks, and then out with that original person they rode with for 2 weeks. And then that officer would determine if they could go out on their own. When I was a police officer, we were in the academy for 16 straight weeks. And then we had 3 one-month phases, as they called them. Okay. And that's how we worked around those pieces. And then when you come out from there, you're in probationary status. You're on probation for 1 full year, but you are technically, on probation, a probe 2 into your 2nd year. But for the most part, it's that 1 full year. And then, they keep you around on probe status so they can work with you closely. Let's put it to you that way. So moving on. Units that I was lucky enough to work, of course, I worked patrol in San Diego, which means it was me either by myself or with another officer patrolling. I patrolled 3 major areas of San Diego divisions when I was a police officer: Northern Division, Western Division, and Southeast Divisions, before moving on to become a traffic officer. For a while, I thought of one of those cool boots, right? So I could get me a motorcycle and changed my mind. But I did enjoy my traffic time. I was on a DUI squad for 4 months. Then my children were born, and I was trying to figure out how I could be more homebound instead of working around the clock. So I became a school resource officer for about 4 years, which meant in San Diego, I worked with the high schools and with the middle schools and helping them with the crime that occurred outside the campus, or any crimes that were referred to as crimes against a person. Then I went and did some gang detail work, child abuse, and then I finished up as a detective in the domestic violence squad, which at that time was the first domestic violence division in the world. And so we did a lot of great work there. Those of you that sheriff is more appealing to you, most departments, not all any longer, because they do have what they call custodial deputies now. But normally you start in the jail. Okay, you're going to work in the county jails, depending on where that's located in your county. You'll spend anywhere from probably 16 to 18 months to 3 or more years, depending on the number of officers that are on the department and the availability of those patrol spots. And then they start all over again. So once you leave the jail, even though you might be, already through your probationary status, but now you go back on probationary status again to be a patrol officer, right? So you got to go through and be trained to do that as well. Some departments might be a little different these days, but again, I do try to get more officers on the street if possible. So that's kind of all of it in a nutshell. I hope I didn't go too fast, but I will take any questions that you might have. So should I go ahead and unshare, guys, so I can see this? Or
Yeah, that'd be great. So we'll go ahead and we'll open it up. Feel free to again post your questions in the Q&A section. Questions. I'll get the ball rolling. What was your favorite thing and what was your least favorite thing, Dr. James, about working in law enforcement?
my favorite thing, I would say, being able to be out in the community and working in the community. I always enjoyed being outdoors and going out and getting to learn your communities. Again, I grew up in a predominantly white community of San Diego back in those days. And most of my patrolling was out in Southeast San Diego, which was predominantly an African-American and Hispanic community, and really getting out and learning the culture, right? Learning, what happened in the communities, what they enjoy doing, and what they really wanted from me as their beat officer. I spent most of my time on one beat. I was 422 John or 422 King for most of my career, because the 400s were Southeast's call numbers, and then my beat was 22. And my least favorite, I would say, getting injured on the job, or the day that I took a day off to go to Knott's Berry Farm, and my close friend and partner was killed in the line of duty on my day off. So that was a pretty tough day, to be honest with you. So those type of pieces. The goal is always to protect and serve, but the number one goal is to always come home the same way you went to work that day. not going to the hospital first to get checked out before you head home. So those are the tough ones.
We do have a question from one of our students. Were you ever in any, serious danger while you were on the job?
I was several times. I've been at shootings. I would say probably I wouldn't say I was scared because that's not where it was at, but intense was October 6th, 1989. Remember like it was yesterday. Myself and 3 other San Diego police officers and 4 school police officers went toe to toe with approximately 400 gang members after a high school football game at Mesa College in San Diego. And when the night was done, I had 32 stitches in my scalp, all kinds of other bumps and bruises, and we wore tan uniforms back in those days. And I literally burned my uniform because I did not want my wife to see what my uniform looked like after that evening. It was a very tough night.
Wow.
Got hit in the head with rocks, got shot at, all kinds of good stuff. So I shouldn't say good stuff, bad stuff, but things happened and we all survived. But we went into it with the mentality that we might not survive. And so that's, I think, why we did survive, because we weren't afraid to take it to the next afterlife, possibly.
Hey. Anyone else have any other
That story gave me chills. That's crazy. I hadn't heard that one before, Dr. James. I've heard a lot of your stories, but I had never heard that one. That was an intense one.
It was, I can go into a lot more detail, but I don't think kids should hear it.
As you're speaking, I was just thinking, thank you. We didn't thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. For those listening, Dr. James is truly what I classify as a service guy. So he's a police officer and then he's working in special education. We do have another question. Why did you stop being a police officer?
I got hurt in the line of duty. My partner and I, we responded to a medical aid call. We were told there was a young man that was struggling to stay alive, possibly. And so we were sent there to back up the fire department. What we weren't told at the time, because there was some disgruntledness between our dispatchers and the fire department dispatchers, let's leave it at that. And they didn't tell us that the fire department had already been there and smelled what they refer to as ether. Ether is used in the making of PCP. We'll leave that. We're not going to tell you how to make it. Okay. And when we got in there, all I saw was these eyes come at me, and this little 5'7", 140-pound young man slid me up a wall with one hand. At that time, I went about 228 pounds. I was probably 5.5% body fat, bench pressed over 500 pounds, and squatted well over 700. And he lifted me up that wall like I was nothing. And we fought him and to try to get him off of me. Got up when we went to the ground, he landed on top of me. Police officers' guns are made to come out through the front. You have to lift up and push forward. So if you ever come up from a police officer from behind and try to grab his gun, only bad things are going to happen to you, okay? Because it's not coming out. And he went for my gun, and I just covered it up like we were taught. And as he continued to rock on my shoulder, my ligament capsule tore. And my partner was able to get him off of me finally using a carotid restraint. When I went to the doctors, they told me that I had a strain of my shoulder. That was all I had. After 2 weeks, they said that I was cleared to go back to full duty. I asked if I could go back to weightlifting. They said absolutely. So for me, I had about 385 pounds on the bar just doing some rep work, and my whole right shoulder came apart. So I had about a 6.5-hour surgery, had serious nerve damage to the upper part of my right shoulder. And I worked as long as I could, but I started losing feeling in my hands and in my arm when I would wear a vest. and due to that, they retired me. I can do this. This is my non-gun hand. As you can see, I can really go with that one, but with my right hand still today, that's about as good as it gets. All right, because I don't have much feeling in my fingertips and through the nerve damage. So they retired me and retrained me as a teacher, and I was thankful for the time that I did, the 12 years that I did spend working in the police field. It was a job I always wanted to do, and education has been very rewarding. So that's what ended my career.
All right, we have more questions coming in. What is the salary range? And then the follow-up is, did you ever need to learn martial arts?
We were taught martial arts in the academy, especially, like a jujitsu type of thing. Nothing crazy. We weren't going to go out and take on, Bruce Lee or anybody like that and win. But I actually gave up carrying my stick, and I carried nunchucks for about 5 years, and they were wonderful. And that piece, and the pay range is crazy different wherever you go. It truly depends on what type of job you want to have. San Diego for years has always been one of the lowest paying departments. Of course, this is forever ago, but in 1980, technically 83 is when I got out into the field, because we graduated on December, I want to say it's December 19th from the academy. My first take-home check while I'm patrolling the streets of San Diego was $375 every 2 weeks. Now, for the most part, I want to say they're starting up and around in San Diego in the $50,000-$60,000 range, maybe a little more. The Riverside County Sheriffs, where I live in Murrieta, their patrol officer twos, ones that are off probation, right? They are, some of them are making in the 80-90 range, and always the key is get your education, right? And make rank, because, the sergeants and lieutenants are going to be making up in the 6 digits in those ranges and stuff like that. So that's where it's at. That's why a lot of times folks will bypass local and county and state departments and go to the federal side of the house, and FBI, DEA, ATF, all of the federal acronyms and alphabet units, and they pay much more, but their academies are much more intense as well.
Okay, we have another question, and it's how long were you? Well, it says a police officer, and then they said that they met a teacher. And so, what's the timeline for both? A police officer, how many years again? And then in education, we'll call it. How long have you served in
So
both?
12 years police, and I'm in my, I think, 27th or 28th year in education. And before I was a police officer, matter of fact, this past Sunday, March 26th, was 44 years to the day that I started the basic training in the United States Army. So I actually went off and I did 3 years and 2 months before that, before I got on the police department. And you do get preferential points for military when you go into police departments.
Any other questions before, as we wrap things up? I just want to make sure I got everyone. I know we know where you work, so we can always shoot you an email too.
Lots of good questions. Thank you guys for putting those in there. Those were good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. James. If there are no more questions, we just want to thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Thank you for your service also. We appreciate you taking the time today. We know that you're super busy, and you're never too busy to share with our students, and that's what we love. One of the things that we love about you. And so to our students, we have one more presentation. We're going to be wrapping things up with our 2023 career for our last speaker of the day. Will be at 3 o'clock. and she's in the medical field. So if you're interested in learning about that, that'd be a good one to come to. The links will be on the career fair website. And so that concludes our presentation. We hope to see you at the last one as we wrap things up. Have a good day, everyone.